YouTube, and welcome to the Blue Corner. In this video, I'm going to be answering your guys' questions that were posted in the Q&A announcement video. My lord, I cannot speak today. That does not bode well. Anyway, I'll be recording this via audio, and then I'll be inserting it over the background music of some gameplay footage, very likely Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. So, quick spoilers for anyone who might be watching Dragon Ball Super. If you haven't seen the Goku Black arc, then you might want to open up another tab and just listen to this video instead of watching me play, as this this video does spoil a little bit of it. So with that being said, let's dive right into this. So the first question is from DriveJack, and he asks, "What are your thoughts on the meta in Japan or in English?" This one was a bit difficult for me to answer at first because I keep wanting to go into big side rants on state of the game and player mentalities and such. So I'm trying to keep it really super condensed here. And let's see. I'll start with the Japanese meta because that's what I honestly feel like theirs is the more competitive one, just due to the fact that they have more events than we do, and their events are of significantly greater size. Like a Japanese locals is usually the same as an ARG states over here, with some exceptions, and they have these events multiple times a week, every week, whereas we have an ARG states how many times in a month? Like, then again, I wouldn't know because I don't have any events up here to go to. But we're already getting off topic, so let's not do that. Ahem. So the Japanese format is it's unfortunate that we still have the two of the top four decks have been around for as long as they have, and that they just never go away. I am of course talking about Gear Chronicle and Royal Paladin. Same faces, different look. Instead of it being Time Leap and Sanctuary Guard, now it's ZTB and Blasters with Sanctuary Guard in it. Like, Sanctuary Guard, holy shit, that thing needs to die. Like, if there was ever a deck in Vanguard that could be compared to Burning Abyss in terms of how long it has outstayed its welcome, it would be Sanctuary Guard. But in spite of the fact that these two decks are around, it is interesting to see how the Japanese have adopted to this, especially how Sanctuary would stay stuck on two and super rush you, and they've opted to counter that by running these 8K and 10Ks to counter rush, and other decks have taken up this mantle. Like we are seeing that Nubatama and Shoshu are also running 10Ks and 8Ks in order to curb rushes from these super aggro decks, and then set 11 really gave us support for Kagero and Dark Irregulars that have actually made those decks playable. So now, instead of it being the big four, we now have a big six. And that's really nice to see. I'm hoping that translates over here. Now, North America's meta, or rather English meta, is a bit different because we don't bandwagon on a deck nearly as much as Japan does. So in addition to seeing the big four, you'll see your other clans that are just popular in North America. Like, we love our Kagero, we love our Link Joker, we also love Dimension Police for some reason. We also, what else is another fairly popular clan among North American player base? I mean, the Aqua Force, yeah, the Navy's pretty popular here too. But obviously, we love our Paladins, and oh, we definitely love our Paladins, like Shadow Paladins. I have no doubt North America was just all too quick to jump on that Luard hype. But because we're also more casual and willing to play what we want to play, you'll be more likely to see decks that normally wouldn't top Japan top, which, and by comparison, when you see a deck that's not any of the big four top in Japan, you take notice because of how the Japanese tournaments are. The fact that something like Shushu was able to top, in spite of it probably being paired up against the big six of their format, goes to show how well that guy's deck was designed, how well he played. Granted, you also probably had the edge in that it was a deck matchup that these guys had never gone up against before, and Chuchu tends to trade its field for a large hand, thus it's able to defend itself against things. But uh, like, um, God, I don't know where I'm going with this now, but the meta could definitely use a shakeup. Will it happen? No. Bushiroad will not pull the trigger on hitting their two big cash cows, Royal Paladin and Gear Chronicle, just yet. We still got to ride out the rest of the season. Hopefully, when set 13 drops and we get Vanguard G next, maybe we'll get finally that much needed change in the cast that will make it so that Bushiroad doesn't have to push Gear Chronicle and Royal Paladin on us, and thus, when those two finally get ousted from the format, we can finally see that much needed shift in the metagame. But until then, I'm not. Oh my god, I went into that side rant regardless. So, um, I guess to put it bluntly, the meta is what I would think it would be at, and it's unfortunately just not going to change. We'll get some new additions to it, but the top dogs are going to be the top dogs, and that ain't changing anytime soon. The Awesome Card Guy 1 asks, what is your favorite deck right now in Vanguard? So, we all know that my favorite clan is Narukami, but in terms of the deck that I get the most enjoyment playing at this time, I would have to say it's Nitros. Nitros, in my opinion, is one of, if not the most skill intensive deck in the game. It requires you to be really knowledgeable of what cards you have in your hand, in your soul, in your drop, and what the matchup is in order to get to also what's in your counterblast. It needs you to be mindful of what matchup you're up against so that you can play things out, i.e. if you're up against Link Joker or Shadow Paladin or Narukami or Gold or Gear Paladins. Yeah, we'll just describe it as Gear Paladins, that paradox there. And I also like it because it's a deck that works out of its graveyard, and those have traditionally been some of my favorite decks in all of card games. Yu-Gi-Oh! Had many iterations of dragons, they work out of their graveyard. Pokemon, one of my favorite decks is the Zekrom Eels deck because or rather, just anything with electric in it because it utilizes the discard pile in order to facilitate energy acceleration. And Versus Seeker is one of my favorite cards of all time because it allows me to take supporters on my discard pile and use them again. Like Junk Armor was one of my favorite cards in its format for that reason too. Just being able to set up your discard so that okay, when I need it, it's there. Like the graveyard, cemetery, discard, drop zone, whatever you call it, being able to work out of that is so great because as the game goes on, your resources become that much more, and the possibilities just become endless. And the fact that Night Rose demands that you be on top of your game to get the most mileage out of it is also really appealing. It is not just throw your cards on the board, turn them sideways, and call it a day like some other decks. Like you got to be careful of where you put all your things, because if you don't, you'll end up making improper lanes, or you won't be able to get the most mileage out of what counterblasts you have to work with. Your counterblasts also determine what you can do. Like the more counterblasts you have open, the more attacks you can do. But how do you want to do it? Do you want to do small attacks, or do you want to do big attacks? Do you want to get retires off? Do you want to not do that? Just focus more on the offense. Do you want to set up for your defense? Mm. Night Rose is a very flexible Swiss Army knife. It's very much in the same way as Time Leap. However, because I feel like Night Rose is able to work off of some very many more things. Like I said, your soul, you can just blast it. Your damage, you can heal it. Your hand, you can discard it. Whereas with Time Leap, sometimes you don't want to draw your combo pieces. You want them in the deck so you can call them out. You have to get them back into the deck. Night Rose doesn't care about that. And for those reasons, plus the fact it's a water deck, and I've always been fond of those. Like water and lightning are my two colors. That it's for those reasons that it's one of my favorite, if not my most favorite clan to play right now. But when set 12 comes out, we all know it will be Narukami Master Race. Twisted Pancreas asks, how does your family react to your love of games, card, video, etc., especially since you have YouTube channels dedicated to them? I guess the best answer would be is they don't. I mean, my younger sister and I, when we were younger, she would play the Nintendo with me, and we even played Yu-Gi-Oh at the same time. But obviously, she stopped because that was a thing that girls just didn't do back then. And whereas I continue to because guys were more accepted as gamers. But um, I can pretty much say that they don't react. they leave me be though. Like they don't pester me about it like they used to when I was growing up. Because back in the '90s, if you were a gamer, you would get teased for it because it was just that kind. That was the thing. It's like how now, if someone's a furry, they'll get mocked. That was pretty much what happened with gamers back then. So I wonder what will be the new thing in the future, like 5 or 10 years from now. What will be the thing that gets that gets shat on with the same derision that furries get? I wonder. But uh, I also don't talk about my channel very much outside of like the people who I feel would be interested in it because I mean, well, what good does a card game channel or a gaming channel do for someone who has no interest in either spectrum? So I keep my I keep my channels to myself. I've only really mentioned it like a couple times to like my cousin or my younger sister, like, hey, I've got this channel. It's got about 700 subs. This one Pokemon video I have like has about 200,000 hits for some reason. That still baffles me, but uh, they accept it, and the other family members they've learned to just back off and leave me be because yeah, I'm a gamer, but at the same time, uh, when I was growing up, I could have fallen with much worse crowds because of what was just the scene back here. Because the where I live is not exactly a great place. Like Regina's pretty has been pretty scummy for a long time, and like we were even worse years ago. Like I can say that if I did not get into video gaming, I could have very well fallen with the drug crowds, and that's something that's actually kind of haunting in retrospect. So Uh, yeah, they weren't exactly fond of gaming when I grew up, but they learned to let me be, especially as it kept me from falling with the wrong scene. So I hope that answered your question. So the last couple questions all come from Master Beetle, and there's some interesting ones. So the first one he asks is, do you think control decks are making a comeback in the metagame with the release of new sets supporting Kagero, then Naros, and then Link Joker and Mega Call getting future support? We can only hope because I'm getting mighty sick of this game being biased towards Gear Paladin style decks, and I want that to change. Bushiroad will never change it because through ban lists like Konami would, so we have to rely on our sets to power creep them out. Also, Mega Colony is one of my main decks. Do you think the new support will be any good and shoot the deck into metagame like Nubatama? Only if they do a complete rework of what Mega Colony does, because uh, the thing about that is Nubatama are not as good as people think they are. They think Dominate is this busted thing, but like I'm actually quite underwhelmed by it. And the problem is with Dominate is that it's a really weak retire that gets stopped by defensive buffs. If your opponent hits a damage trigger, you're screwed because you can't hit above 16,000. I mean, you can't even hit 16,000. Like you can hit 14,000 or 11,000, but like if like Dominate gets shut down really hard by something like that, and Dominate also suffers from the fact that it's still relying on the base Nubatama cards as a support, and well, Nubatama's cards are so awful that they're literally holding down a busted mechanic in theory. Hell, like Dominate, like I think you should be asking for cards better than Dominate or like Narukami and Kagura level support for their keywords. So, like, yeah, like that's a discussion topic in itself. But TLDR, Dominate is overhyped, and it's not going to do nearly as much damage as people think it will. Shiranui Makurumoro is also not a great card. It's actually kind of underwhelming. Dominate the Vanguard, attack all rear guards. Yeah, it's 2 checks, but you're discarding a card and soul blasting 2 in a deck that uses up a lot of its soul, especially if you overuse Genkai and Furai. You're not going to be able to use Makurumoro more than once a game. So all it is just a really version of a Shurabuku Buster, but it can't attack the Vanguard, therefore you can't take damage. So like um I mean you can hope though. What Mega Colony needs though is like it needs a finisher because to my knowledge the deck lacks an actual finisher. It's like just annoy your opponent, maybe stun the Vanguard with Stun Beetle, but who lets Stun Beetle hit? Stun Beetle doesn't get power either, so you have to deal with 30 kg guards now. Like it needs an actual finisher. Like if I were to give Mega Colony a boss monster, it would be Dark Device, Counterblast 1, Persona Flip, When this unit attacks your opponent's vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, for each of your opponent's units at rest, choose one of your rear guards, stand them, and then get power plus X thousand for each card at rest at this time. So maybe 2,000. So if your opponent has 5,000 at rest, if your opponent has 5 at rest, you stand 5 units, and they all get 10,000 power. Seems excessive, but you know what? Fuck it. Look at what Oracle Think Tank got for its boss stride. I think Mega Colony deserves something of that power level. What do you think about Link Joker getting support again and its effect on the metagame? I think now is as good a time as any. Again, Gear Paladin shenanigans have been running rampant on the format. I think Link Joker can be that cure that we need because Link Joker just naturally checks Paladins, and unless Paladins gain the ability to get resist on the opponent's turn, please don't even think about that Bush Roll. Ganslot already is cancer enough. Um, Link Joker should, with like good support and means of defending against them better, should be able to like bring paladins down a notch and gears down a notch too. And when Link Joker becomes good, Narukami and Kagero are able to step in because they generally have good matchups against Link Joker because you blow up their shit while also committing very little to the board yourself. Thus, you're able to win a war of attrition. Now, granted, Link Joker's Generation Break 8 is bonkers, and that's something to be mindful of, but yeah, if Link Joker gets good support, then they should naturally balance out the metagame and thus allow the control clans to actually step in. So I think Mega Colony's chances in the format are going to be dependent on how well Link Joker's new support does. So root for Link Joker because they're going to be what ultimately sets the standard for the rest of us. Sorry for all the questions, but do you think that the top four decks of Nitros, Jet, Luard, and Blasters are not getting support in set 12? After set 12 will change the metagame drastically? We can only hope. What will ultimately determine whether or not the meta changes or not is what the cast will be for the new season of Vanguard G, because unfortunately we're not getting a new Vanguard series. So we now have to hope to God that Chrono and Co just fuck off. Sorry for the language, but we need Chrono, Shion, Togoha, Tayo, Kazuma. I think we need them to just go, and we need some new people to take the reins so that we don't get gears and royals shoved down our throat every other set. Like, I am so sick of seeing Royal Paladins get support in every set. Like, you want to complain about gears, that's fine, but Royal Paladins are just as bad, if not more, because they were also overly supported when Aichi was the protagonist. So, yeah, uh, just make Chrono and them go away. Like, write them out of the season somehow. Besides, what the hell can you do with that guy? He has had no character development this past season. Like, he is stale character, the archetype. Like, they've made Togaha go backwards in her character development. Shion, like, like his character arc, I feel is done. Like, he had his good plot in like Stride Gate, so just be done with that. So keep our fingers crossed and see what G next does. And his final question is, what do you do to prepare for major tournaments, and how do you keep informed on Vanguard events? I'm trying to be a more competitive player, and what do you know? And do you know how to get good? This one's a toughie to answer, as for one thing, I have no major events to go to, so I can't actually comment on that part. I can really only relate my experiences playing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Regionals, so I'm using that. As far as keeping informed on Vanguard, like yourself, I'm sub to many of the big name Vanguard channels. Like I'm sub to Vanguard 40, Team No Guard, Team Absolution, uh, different fights. And looking over your subscription feed, you're actually sub to a bit more than I am. Like you're also sub to the Science of Vanguard. Although, have they actually uploaded anything for a while? I feel like they kind of just stopped when that Dragonborn. Oh Lord, I clicked on the video. Yeah, they haven't uploaded anything for 2 months though, and that's unfortunate because they were actually really good content. Oh Lord, I keep opening their page and getting blasted by massive volume. Like YouTube wise, you've got some good information to work off of. I also am a frequent visitor of POJO, and POJO has a thread called Japanese Tournaments and Results where they will post things that top in Japan, usually every other week whenever they have their VGCSs. In fact, let's take a quick peek over the Japan. Like Team Absolution commented on like the last one where Blasters got first and second. Blade Master got third. Blade Wings got fourth, and Shushu and Zero Damage Omega Glindios got top eight. So some of the channels are reporting on the things that pop up, but POJO usually posts a bit more of that. So you can go to there, like you can see this Yokohama VGCS where you have Nuba, Tama, Nitros, and DI get first place, and then Seven Seas Rush, Gear Chronicle DI gets second, Nitros, Gear Chronicle DI gets third, and Nitros, Sanctuary Guard Dragon, Gear Chronicle gets fourth. There's also Twitters you can go, like if you really want to go the extra mile, you can like go to the Japanese Twitters and trying some of these places. Also, since actually, are you sub to card protagonist in Card Otaku Desu? Let's see. I don't think you are. Yeah, I'm actually checking out your page. So, shout outs again, sir. No, I don't think you are. So, those are two YouTube channels I would highly suggest checking out. I mean, they're not super competitive, but Card Otaku Desu posts good deck profiles. Plus, you can get a good idea of what set ratios will be like when you watch his unboxings. Card Protagonist will post games, and while they may be on the more casual side, it's still like a good idea of where some decks are going because they obviously play in Japanese format. And when I was watching their channels, I would also get like related channels pop up. Like when I was watching Card Protagonist videos, I would get videos for Saeki on his related channels. And from there, I would come across a channel called Macau Channel. Like I'm gonna link to some of these channels that I watch. Some of them I'm not sub to, but I watch them on my iPhone or my PS Vita when I'm going to bed because so, it may be the most hilarious thing ever, but like watching Blasters versus Bermuda Triangle will actually put me to sleep within 10 minutes. It's like if I'm struggling to fall asleep, I'm like okay, let's put on some Bermuda Triangle. That'll knock me out. And yeah, I'm gonna link to some of these before. Like the thing is, even though they may be like small games, like local tournaments or like casual games, these people are still super competitive, and they will do the things like running 8Ks and 10Ks, and you'll see things like when I was watching Gear Chronicle versus Shadow Paladin in the last video, I saw the guy start with full bow, and he rode Blaster Javelin, and he searched out Blaster Dark. I'm like, why would you do that? And then I realized, oh my lord, by riding Blaster Javelin on top of full bow, you get an 8K base, and you get to search out your 10K base guaranteed. So that was some brilliant thinking on their part. I don't know if they'll catch on over here, but hey, that's a thing to try out if you're playing Shadow Paladin. Like, Luard's starter is irrelevant anyway, so why not run the OG Shadow Paladin starter and get your mini ride chain on? And if nothing else, it's an 8K that you can run. And if you can't ride it, then you can just sack off your blaster javelins and go from there. So little bits like that. As far as preparation goes, like again, I'm going to be relating my Yu-Gi-Oh experiences for that one. I can tell you what not to do, and that is do not get only 3 hours of sleep before a tournament because you will hate yourself if it's a long day. And my Yu-Gi-Oh regionals are usually 7 hours long. No, they're 7 rounds, but they might as well be 7 hours long. And I feel like death after them, and that's usually because I've had such little sleep. Be confident what deck you're playing. Like, do not make the mistake of changing your deck the night or day before because I'm suddenly not confident. Like, you've played this deck for a long time. You know that better than what you could be switching it to in the last minute. Like, I've seen people switch from the deck they've played for literally a month to Cleave Fort for the first time because this deck will get me a top, and then they fail the top, and there goes a couple $100 down the drain. So don't do that. Um, Play often. Like the best way to improve is to keep playing because if you continue to play, you will start noticing things like hell. I can take my experiences playing Dragon Ball Z Universe 2. Like I was terrible at the game when I first started. Granted, I still am bad. I snap banish, or rather, I rely on snap banishing to get out combos way too much. I know this, but like when you play something for a very long time, you start noticing things. Like, how long have you been playing Vanguard? I've been playing it for since the game started. Plus, I've had experience playing Yu-Gi-Oh, and I've been playing Vanguard and Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon alongside each other. So, I've just I developed what you call card game sense. You learn to realize that certain deck styles are certain things. Like I now realize that Vanguard, despite the fact that people complain about being sacky and skillless, it requires you to be mindful of things too. Like your hand is your most important thing, so you gotta learn to get more value out of that. Um, Sometimes if you can't find anyone to play against with, take two of your decks and play against yourself a couple times. You are your own worst enemy at times. So like see like think of it as like as a different kind of goldfishing where you just test hand. Like see how your Mega Colony does against your other deck. And for the sake of like, okay, if I do this line of play, is this correct? Play it out and see if that's fine. Give your opponent the benefit of the doubt and assume you don't know, and pretend you don't know what their hand is, and see what goes from there. Um, I don't know what else I can really say. Like, how to get good is a really difficult question to answer, but like watch other people play, watch more experienced people play, pick up on the things. When you're watching people play, take a moment to pause and ask, how would I have done this? Also, play more than one kind of deck. Like, uh, like I have a new appreciation for playing certain decks because I've played other clans. Like I used to be strictly Naros, but then I played Genesis for a while, and that made me appreciate the style of Naros all that much more. Then I went and played Paladins for a while, then I went back to Naros. It's like, okay, as a Paladin player, I know this is what I want to do. So now as a Naro player, I don't want them to do that thing. It's like when I from playing Nitros, I know very well that my counterblast is my heart and soul. So as a Naro player, I'm gonna make certain if I can't kill Nitros, I'm gonna make certain she only has one counterblast to work with, and that's really damning for a Nitro player. Like I may be at 5 damage, but you can't kill me with only one counterblast. At least now you. Look, granted, you could GBA, but that's a different. Like you have to go watch. But even then, or Negrosonger, but even then, you can't do near as many multi-attacks. Thus, I'm able to defend against that shit better. So, just, yeah, those are like the things I can really say about that. And that's it for the video. So, thank you all for the questions you've submitted. I'll try and do another one of these at some point, probably next month. I don't see myself being able to sit down for a Q&A session in the immediate future, so yeah, if you have any questions though, you can post them down here. I'll add them to the queue and then I'll make another announcement video. And yeah, until next time, this is BlueStar899 jacking out.